Having the
Here at UrbanArias, we pride ourselves on timely and relevant opera. That's why.
Hi, this is Anne Carolyn Bird, Executive Director of UrbanArias, and I'm so happy to be here today for another one of our interviews as we get ready to present Driving While Black by Susan Kander and Roberta Gumbel. I am here today with the people making the music for this film adaptation that we're doing. We have soprano Karen Slack, who is busy with many, many projects this year. We're so happy to have her with us, her powerful, beautiful voice. And a familiar face at UrbanArias, Robert Wood, our founder and artistic director, who is conducting the piece and who brought Karen on board for this as well. So thank you both so much for being here.
So much for having me. I have been dying to work with Bob at UrbanArias for a number of years, and so I'm so thankful to be asked. Bob and I go way back when I was a young artist in Santa Fe Opera, so we know each other for a very long time. But I'm originally from Philadelphia, born and raised, still live in Philadelphia. I am a graduate of the Curtis Institute of Music, where I did my education, and I went on to the Maryland Opera program and was the young artist at San Francisco Opera for a few years and started singing. I fell in love with opera when I was 15 years old. I went to Arts High School in Philadelphia, and my choral teacher loved opera. So every day he was blasting Corelli and Pavarotti and Flockstadt and Nielsen and Norman. And so the first time I heard Maria Callas and Jesse Norman, I was like, oh man, I want to be able to do that someday. I loved it. And I always had a big voice, high voice. And so listening to those singers made it real for me. And then seeing Denise Graves do Carmen for the first time. Well, my first time, wasn't her first time, but I was 16 years old and a part of the open rehearsals for the Opera Company of Philadelphia and the Sounds of Learning program. And I think I'm old enough to have been the first class. I think my year was the first class they started opening up dress rehearsals. And so it just changed my life. And I've been able to actually do that, which is a feat, right? To say as 14 or 15, I want to be an opera singer, and to actually really be able to do it, like that's insane.
Like Karen, I wanted to be an opera singer when I was a teenager. It didn't work out for me, but I saw the lights shortly after college. I actually was a voice major in college, and I realized that my musical mind was the thing that was the most going to be the most successful, and so I thought that conducting might work out for me, and it turns out it did. So I also went to the Maryland program as a coach, and made my conducting debut at the San Francisco Opera about 6 years later. And I've worked a bunch of places, and I love conducting the rep in the canon, but I've also really loved exploring new work. When I founded UrbanArias, it was partially as my proposed solution to what I saw as challenges for people accepting the art form. And the two I identified right off the bat were length and language. If we were, I don't get bored at the Ring, but some people say they do. So we have to believe them. And I thought, what if we did things that were more feature film length? People don't have a problem sitting through that. So that's where the 90 minutes or less came in. And I also wanted to focus on works that were really more current, more recent. And so that's why, it's pretty much 21st century work. Occasionally we'll go back into the 90s, but not really further than that. And as this has evolved, I feel like our most powerful pieces and the pieces that really connected with the audience the most felt really current. They were about current events, or they were about current social issues, or they were about the way we were feeling now. We were telling stories about ourselves right now in this moment, or in our very recent history.
it's going to be a challenge either way, because like, say if we were presenting this, 2 years ago, a year ago, although these things have been happening, right? It's not like, they've been happening, they haven't been happening. But with where we are now is as a country, as the world, it's challenging, and when I I had an incident where, and I guess it might have been 3 years ago. We were in Kentucky. When we lived in Kentucky, my husband and I, we got pulled over by the police. My immediate response was to grab my phone and put on my voice memo and record and sit it right there. This was like this was 5 years ago. 5 years ago. That was the first thing. I was like, okay, so if at least, and this is before Philando Castillo, this is before, all that. But, so it's really close to me, but as an artist, although it's close to me, it's not my story. I have to tell the story, and it is difficult, but it's difficult to take poison and jump out. Well, for me, it's difficult to do the Tosca jump at the end of the night, because I'm having to kill myself. The first time I had to do Tosca, I was like, I can't do this. So, I'm already dealing with, big emotions as an opera singer, but
it is an excellent point. That is an excellent point. Yeah.
The first time I did Tosca, I was like, oh my God, I can't do the jump. And I was doing it with Bernard Uzan, and he's like, go sit down and tomorrow you'll try it. Then the next day I didn't want to try it. Then the third day he was like, you have to do the jump today. So, but again, yeah, it is, but it is my story to tell, but it also is my story. It is other people's stories that I am charged to tell as a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job, and what an honor. How can I tell? Okay, so I was so busy right before COVID, going from gig to gig doing the thing, and then I literally was on a gig flying home, and then America shut down, right? And I was like, ooh, maybe this is a good idea. Only thinking that it was gonna last
2 weeks since yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Even 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh, a couple months, maybe until we'll be back in the summer. And it just didn't happen. But I had already been thinking about projects and things that I wanted to do to offer to various arts organizations. So I'd already kind of been thinking about that over the last 2 years, after doing Fire Shut Up in My Bones in St. Louis, and then doing other projects and things that I was doing. I kind of was like, I like telling stories about my people, and I'm not ashamed as an artist, because oftentimes it's a tricky getting boxed in to certain things. And I was, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do Black stories, it's not gonna be Porgy and Bess. They're gonna be the stories that I want to tell. So
and also you don't want to get boxed in, and I think so far you are being very successful at this, that you only tell Black stories. Like, we also want to hear your Aida and your Norma, and all those big, as Bob says, the stories of the canon. That is you too, and that is the gift that you bring. So sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, you're fine. No, and exactly. I have been lucky, and I really do count that as luck and blessed, to be able to navigate in this world where those things happen, simultaneously, right? And so when Mr. Floyd was murdered in Minnesota, that's when everything sort of changed for many of us. The conversations that we were all having privately with each other we've been asked to have in front of the entire industry in the world. And when Janae called me to do this, to do the panel, she was telling me how it all came to fruition and called me to do it. We were all super nervous. We were all texting each other the day of, being like, oh my God,
Are we really about to do this? Like, are we gonna lift up the rug and shine the light on all these stories that we've known for years? And
yeah. Absolutely. And Janae, honestly, she's the baby in the group of all of us. She's really still at the beginning of her career, her and Julia both. And to be asked to not only curate a panel, to be on a panel, a part of that. Larry is grandfathered and Morris and, Russell and all those guys, all of us we have the longevity in a way, but to be in the beginning and ask, I mean, I really felt like I had to be there for her in that way and to show up, because we're family. And so then we had LA panel and it just exploded. But even before that, I had already been doing combos and sort of having these conversations, in a way. I said I was going to, and I wasn't being asked to sing at that time, like a lot of singers. And I said, and I didn't want to sing. I really didn't want to sing until after Mr. Floyd was murdered. That was the first thing I was like, oh, I have to sing. And so I was just talking and drinking and being like, when is this over? And then reality hit and it was like, oh, and that for me was the start of me really being like, okay, girl, you got to get focused and you got to get serious, and now is your chance to have the kind of career you want to have on your terms. So
that's incredible.
As it turned out, I've been aware of Susan Cantor's music for a number of years, and I'm on her mailing list, and so she sent a promo for Driving While Black about a year and a half ago for performances that were going to take place in Kansas City. And I read this and I thought, that sounds really interesting. I want to know more. So I just wrote her and I said, can you send me the materials on this? And she did. And I thought, wow, we really have to do it. It's a really compelling piece. And it's just the way she's telling this story that is the lived experience of so many people is really gripped me. And I thought it would grip our audience too. I think there are many, what I would call musical strengths to it. And one of the things that I think is part of the challenges are for the way that Susan and many other composers write, it's very complicated on the page. And yet the emotion that they are conveying with it is quite pure and not necessarily, I mean, it's multifaceted, but it's not necessarily as complicated as what it looks like. And so the challenges for scores like this is to bring those voices, and that these things where the rhythm is very tricky and the pitches are tricky, and to have that all come out and sound like it's natural. It's the way that you would convey that emotion and that text. So that's a bit of a trick in some places. And again, why I'm really grateful that we have Karen and that we have Dubois, so that we can have, we can make this about what the story's about. And also that we have the luxury of recording this beforehand and then shooting it, only meaning that we can, I mean, we can't make all of our decisions in the 3 days that we're together in either place, right? We're gonna have to talk about some of this stuff beforehand, and as Karen and I are gonna do, and then Dubois and I are gonna do. But it's a question of deciding where something should be free or something should be quite rhythmical, and these sorts of things. And they're very sort of cut and dried in the moment. But what matters about that is preserving momentum when you have no audience to feed off of. You can tell in a theater whether the audience is with you or they're not. Karen can tell it, I can tell it, even though my back is to them. And then Karen and I can choose in live performance to make decisions. We're playing catch all night. That's what you do as a conductor and as a singer in opera. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun, and I really miss it. But in this case, we have to do it in a way that that is satisfying for us and that seems effective without that real-time feedback.
We met in Arizona Opera doing Yardbird, the opera that I guess Philly premiered it. Daniel Schneider was the composer. I knew I had to work with Dubois because the way he transformed that piece for me as not only an artist, a part of the piece, but as also an audience member, because when I'm not on the stage, I'm oftentimes in the theater watching the process. And so I was like, oh, he's a tremendous artist and I have to work with him. And he's a choreographer, he's a dancer. So he was dancing in the show, but he was creating his own choreography. And he basically was mimicking the emotion of Charlie Parker through the whole piece. And he does this beautiful outro dance that he choreographed. And I knew he was special. And he's not done an opera, you know, he's not of our genre, but I knew I had to work with him. And then there were a couple of things that we didn't get a chance to work on and I wanted to do. But when Bob approached me, I was like, this is the project for us. Every morning. Well, I think the whole medium of film scares me because we've never done it, never had to do it, don't know, doesn't have the skill set as an actress, you know, to sing for 3,000 plus seat house is a very different medium than having to scale back the emotions in a way for a smaller, you know, for the camera. Interestingly enough, I was supposed to do La Voix Humaine first a few months ago for Madison and Austin Opera. We were going to do
a film.
Yes, but I didn't. We're going to push it back to a different season because I don't think that story needs to be told right now. And I took a stance and I said, you know, Catherine Smith was so supportive of me, and I said, I don't think we need to tell that story now. I need to be telling different stories. And so it worked out where we're going to do. This will be the first filmed thing that I'm doing. So. On top of the fact that it's not chung chung go, sing this beautiful soaring phrase. This is another idea that makes me nervous, you know, but I'm so thankful that we are using a conductor, you know, and I love Bob. I trust Bob and Dubois, who's my good friend. I trust it for us to tell the best story we can in a safe space where I can feel like this is my first time doing this and I feel very safe and that people have my back, you know, right. in that way. But for me, it's just these are the things that I want to say in this moment. That's why the Lyric Fest project is important. This project is important because there's nothing else that I really want to sing right now.
I thought, though, that because of the size of the forces and the message, it also could be really effective virtually. And that's when I thought maybe with the right team, we can create a film adaptation of this that will be its own thing, that will still, you know, be the piece itself, but that will feel like it is original and made for video. And I thought that Driving While Black would translate into a video production really well. The size of the forces, I thought, really suits the intimacy of video and of film. Having one singer and two instrumentalists also really solves the problem of what we're able to do in the same room at the same time. We only need 4 people in a room to record the score. We need maybe 10 people in the room to film it. So those are both things that we can manage. And I thought, what a really cool thing to take this really great piece and adapt it for film so that we can do it in a way that will be specific to our film version of it, and which may include elements, in our case, dancers, and also the storyboarding of telling the story through cinematic shots. That is an opportunity that we have right now.
Talking with your friend this morning about a project in Seattle.
Yes, he's doing this a film with Seattle, and he's saying that he has to practice the lip syncing. And I was like, oh shoot, that's what I'm gonna have to do. You know, it just sort of just hit me this morning. But I have it planned out for myself that once I make the recording, I'm just gonna like live in that world and practice. And thank God it's starting to slow down for me. By the time we film this, I got one more thing that I have to do, and then I can really like practice, you know, the whole thing. Yeah, and I am going to heavily enlist on Dubois in that way, because I'm sure he has tips and things, or like counting the beats in between the times where you have to I would imagine, you know, you have to practice the pause as well as practicing the text. So
well, one hopefully helpful thing will be, and we discovered this when we filmed a project called The Roost last fall, because we did exactly the same thing, pre-recorded it, although we were not lucky enough to have everyone in the same room for that. We actually had to piece that together through online stuff. But I was there, and I will be here for this process too, and I will conduct in the room. And it will have to be just a thing where this worked mostly really well in Charlottesville when we did it, was it wasn't obvious that they were looking at me, but it just helped with exactly what you're talking about, just like on the stage. So you can be in the moment and you're counting, but you're like, you're not on your own. And you're like, oh, shoot, I missed it. And you know that like the way you opened your mouth to sing the vowel was just a split second later than you did it on the recording. So yeah, I think that ought to help.
Do you think there's a difference in presenting this piece on film versus on stage in terms of how far you can go emotionally?
Yes. And in the way that we are doing it, I think is the best way, so that we're not all wearing ourselves out emotionally, doing it over and over, again. And how you create film now, where you're splitting the sound and the, this and that, all these things that you're learning, and I'm really going into it not nervous, not scared, but open, because I don't think we're going to abandon this anytime soon, so I'm going into a very open-hearted, open-minded, in a very positive way. So,
well, isn't it fun though too? I mean, we have this opportunity to explore a whole different medium than something that we've been doing. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's what she was saying, that
Yeah.
we've all learned these new skills this year, and so we are not going to let them go. When the beautiful day comes when we can get back into the theater and share that energy together, we're all going to weep for about a month, and then we'll get, then these two versions of our art form can live parallel. And I think it's really exciting. Yeah.
I'll say one thing before we go. Before we move on, we've spent the last 3-4 seasons trying to figure out how can we make opera more relevant. How can we? And it's a pandemic for everybody to get their together.
Right.
And we are making opera more relevant.
Yeah, more accessible, more versatile, more modern, more contemporary. This is. It's terrifying what the pandemic has done to our industry, but it's also an incredible opportunity.
Yes. Well, combos will live on. I'm not gonna stop doing that. I really have a dream for combos to be a representative of classical music, of our art form, in a mainstream way. In all art, classical music being the core of it, because I think that we need that. We need to, but I feel like I have the talent on the other side to be able to bring our art form mainstream. So I'm going to continue to do combos. But I was just sitting around and I was watching all of the singers and all the artists kind of like, just talk to each other, but not really having the conversations that I wanted to have. And I love talking to people. I love talking. I love learning about other people. And when I'm on gigs, I have really kind of these kind of conversations with my colleagues over a glass of wine or whatever. And so that was my idea, was to have a glass of wine or a drink, sit and talk about the time, about the art, so that other people can get to see. And it really was to be of service to the industry and to my artist friends in a way, because everyone always knew, Stephanie Blythe as a singer, Morris Robinson or even Janae, or all of these artists that have so graciously said yes to come. We only know them from their art, never as just humans. And so I had no idea that it was going to take off the way it was, or that people were really going to be excited about it, because we just started on Facebook. And then I switched it to doing live stream on YouTube once I figured out how to, again, it was a learning curve. Who knows how to do any of this stuff, And so, it's grown, it's expanded, and people are like, when are you going to invite me? And I'm like, I wish I could do it. Like, I really wish I could do it every day and present it in a way where artists, there's tons of people to speak to, right? And our art for, and tons of interesting people that the world outside of classical music should know about. So that's what I was doing through the pandemic. And my husband's like, you're going to do it again? I'm like, yeah, he's my production guy. So every week he sets me up and we do the thing.
This has not been a failure. This has been a lot of fun. And I know we could keep talking more and more. We look forward to having you on our panel, both of you, in in April, shortly before the premiere of this piece. I'm so excited. I will probably come and see you wave from a distance when you're here to record in a few weeks. So take care, take some time to rest.
Yes. And I'll see you, Bob, soon.
Yeah. Yep.
Good. If you need anything, Karen, give me a call.
Okay. Sure.
But I know you're in good hands. Can't wait to talk more.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Karen.
you.
It's great to see you.
Bye, Bob.
I am afraid as they discuss taking me down to the creek. There no one can hear. I'm very afraid.
Having
Here at UrbanArias, we pride ourselves on timely and relevant opera. That's why.